Very nice indeed, Gianna. Thank you. And I'm delighted to be reading at this venue, which I had never, well, perhaps I shouldn't tell tales on myself. It's a great place. The filling station tire inflation cord, spring coiled from an air pump, curved, hem round by thoroughfare rush hour traffic, some thought moving forward of a friend and loved, having said, interrupted, is this air pump a pace lot or do I catch? Air temperature oscillation kept flattening only one tire, such that I'd unpocketed $1 plus assorted coins, splayed, curved, out of the hand holding the cord's trigger, other gripping the nozzle, the length threatening to ravel back, glasses falling off my face. I filled as the man came up. Today's my birthday, he told me. He pointed to a line atop the uppermost sheaf's piece he held in the hand not pointing, to prove the date of birth, filled in, shared with our present day, those numbers I think I forgot. Though lifting my eyes to his blocked sun, kept from falling the glasses. See, these papers are job applications. I'm 52 years old today. So then I got it, nor is he as old as I, trudging toward convenience. My price in the slot, the residual curb beside me, now an evident proffer. Do we shake hands? Interrupted. More likely, did we shake hands? Some thought moving forward, for as the cord coiled back, I watched him disappear past the open store door's slit. The poem that I'm going to read is called Missouri. It's a kind of meditation on the word Missouri, which for some reason I got involved in studying a while back. And I don't know that I have to say too much about this, but I do want to just note that this poem was put out in a Natural Bridge earlier this year, and so that means that all the good things that are happening to me in poetry are a result of Jen Goldring's managing editorship, because she's the managing editor of this issue of Natural Bridge, and she's the managing editor of the December that I'm appearing in right now with this new issue, and I'm very grateful to her for that. Missouri, circa 1672, a word which is a tribute, tributary, a tax paid, a taxpayer, tarry, thus Wycliffe, among to return something to the people there, in an ode. Their mouth was likened to a piragua, a smiling length of dugout wooden craft, possibly in deference to the shape of Cora Island between West Alton Pier and Portage de Sioux, whose Mintosh, people of the mouth, stored weapons on the peninsula to prevent enemy escape. On maps, the peninsular shapes vary widely, but if you could picture in outline a bluebird's breast, throat, and head with beak against a solid background of blue, then imagine that bluebird's beak nudging its bit of soil into the headwaters of a great blue dumping into another much longer throat. You'd have something like the way most cartographers have preferred to draw it. Missouri, Mississippi, selfsame, seen at the point between two of its four shores, and from the north is the Oneota Anthopascan, in whose wake the French followed also the ice flows, and with 30-odd Ottawa guides called it Pekatanawi, a shortcut to Asia. So we drive to the south shore going out Columbia Bottom Road, That's rich. Alluvial soil covered once as it was by water, sumped in locks and by dams still visible on the riverside most remote from Asia's fineries. One would need to return to one's home to tarry there, so just about anything might be used to spoon its ruins, and in this sense follow the Hidasta, later Siouan, who, Washington Matthews tells us, called the spoons they traded for Aziuetsa. Aziuti equals the mouth of the river. Count your spoons. 10 years passed. For a king's tribute, Louisiana. Per membra. Large villages live on the river of many nations, though he too was only a mintosh, people who have reached the mouth. Okay, so this is the, I want to read the piece that was put into the new December magazine, and I'm delighted it's there. Just a word about it. I wrote it about a year ago, during all of the Ferguson stuff. A lot was going on there, obviously, during that period. And I was reading a book by a writer, an interesting book called The Empathy Exams by Leslie Jameson. And in an essay in that book, she has an essay there called The Grand Unified Theory of Female Pain. Kind of an unprepossessing title, huh? One of the sections, it's a long essay, one of the sections of it deals with a poet, Lucy Greeley, who wrote an autobiography called Autobiography of a Face, which is an autobiography about facial reconstruction surgeries that Lucy had done over many years. And so I was just sort of interested in that use of, Leslie Jameson sort of sees Lucy Greeley as a kind of, not as being part of her generation, but of being a sort of generational avatar for the way that Leslie Jameson's generation sort of sees empathy. This got me to be a little bit possessive because I had been friends with Lucy. Lucy was the suicide. And perhaps I had not really ever grieved Lucy's death. So anyway, I wrote this poem sort of in response to that and to things that were going on in our immediate surroundings here. Well, which you'll recognize. My wife has taught for 19 years in Ferguson, so. Empathy. The history of empathy is evident in discretion. Say you could burn back its soft tissue so a vernacular candidacy might still go global. Call it a bet on which the knowing would never wager. Still, they'd keep a clear eye on the derivatives. There's always action in the safety valve. Lucy had her jaw reset how many times? Another woman listens as her doctor recommends she move very quickly on the radical mastectomy. The folks who witnessed FDR labor with his polio only intensified the folklore surrounding him. In my family, his name was not mentioned. Labor and race. Turn face to face. A photo finish. Find the men in the schools. Give them the guns. Still, there were the forts, the troublesome forts. Set fire to the whistle stop. No arsonist was identified. To do otherwise would be a classic case of overshare. We were happy your teaching job meant neither of us would need look further for political work. No doubt there were many jobs we couldn't do. Not that we were unable, but had vowed in listening to invoke the slow stewardship of other lives. From the mercy that is silence, I startled to hear helicopters when the insomniacs, dressed as shift workers, panned across the night sky. About those public sentiments no statesman can safely disregard. Give them $1 so they might post online a route to the political. Lucy, did you have a place to stay? She leaned laconically against our kitchen sink. Our teacher told her, visit them when you hit town. I leaned against the fridge, trying not to tear the Times Orson Welles obit, flapping like an elephant's ear from its magnet. A long life. Yet it did not say that Orson Welles was always working. I'd post obits in the most inappropriate places. A man writes a letter to a hospital, performed unneeded tests on a woman they knew to be dying. An important issue about his wife. The kind of letter you don't send, but find clipped to dashboards, taped to bookstore shelves, declined from magnets on refrigerator doors in houses we were renting. So the last thing I'll read is another poem that is sort of set out at Columbia Bottom. And it's called Any of Several Large Corvine Birds. I don't think I need to say much about this. Columbia Bottoms is, you know, it's a wonderful place out there by the confluence. And I use it for all sorts of things, but frequently I will go out there with a notebook. Any of several large corvine birds. Crow hoofed it more than once into the ravine. The tree stump in this slow swale couldn't sit more softly, though I stepped around a thatch of downed branches to make the middle of the rushes, water along the swale's keel, long enough gone away. 2013, the secular stayed unsaid. Into the bottom, and not for the first time, I raised a hell of a racket getting there. The slough's leaf bed self-same as its brush husk like a bark underneath my boots. Deadwood, the nestled limbs snapped like judgment or sleep. I came to meet a bird I'd seen a month earlier in the park, a day before another I spent here, the redwings, where their nests keep about me a perimeter in a grove at Art Hill's foot. Now that they'd made me think of the bottoms, I couldn't find the keel a month later, only I'd never catch them out on the slow's keel, tropically dense and golden Alexanders 5 feet high with the parasitic vegetation flourishing. So those bones, fin scales, a month before I couldn't help but have crushed, walking drainward up the ravine toward the road, I could barely make out amid the waves of parsnip as I walked in the opposite direction, looking I don't know why for that stump. The ravine went on for miles. I wasn't quite as far away from my car as noon, but the mosquitoes, dread's emissaries, alit, so panic shouldn't have surprised me. The underbrush, the bank led to a singe, the thicket left dark and less densely bugged. Per usual, there was no way in but to crash it. Resting a moment beneath the deadwood canopy, the shadow burned to the underside the noon leaves, I heard again the chirk in those solitaries' breathy note, up above the canopy, keeping its green perimeter. The way they fly to their nests in the reeds, dipping masculine colors your way. We land on mileage posts, spotting roadsides as we tear up the roads out of the bottom. Or just these hollow Alexander stems you see, though we're not looking to be seen.